I'm Patrick Lancaster with breaking news. Russia has fired its nuclear triad. Air, sea, and land-based missiles. Vladimir Putin has ordered what the Russian Ministry of Defense calls a massive exercise of the entire strategic nuclear force. And this is the first time this has been done in almost a year. Is this a threat to the West or a warning? Or is this just a yearly planned exercise being blown out of proportion by the media? Let's get into it. Vladimir Putin took part in a video conference where he confirmed the launching of these different platforms and how they are to test the readiness and the nuclear deterrent of the strategic nuclear force of Russia. And we can have a look at that video conference here.
Товарищ Верховный Главнокомандующий, сегодня под вашим руководством проводится тренировка по управлению стратегическими ядерными силами. Разрешите, начальник Генерального штаба генерал-адмирал Герасимов Валерий Васильевич доложит замысел проведения тренировки.
Да. Добрый день, уважаемые товарищи. Сегодня у нас плановая, хочу это подчеркнуть, плановая тренировка по управлению ядерными силами, как только что доложил министр обороны. Давайте начнем работать. Пожалуйста, слово начальнику Генерального штаба Вооруженных сил Российской Федерации Герасимову Валерию Васильевичу. Прошу вас, Валерий Васильевич.
Товарищ Верховный Главнокомандующий, на тренировке предлагается отработать порядок действий по санкционированию применения ядерного оружия. Практические действия будут осуществлять подвижный грунтовый ракетный комплекс Yars государственного испытательного космодрома «Медведев», ракетная подводная лодка стратегического назначения Северного флота «Брянск» из акватории Баренцева моря, стратегические ракетоносцы Ту-95 МС с аэродромов Украины.
Now, these weren't some just off-the-wall missiles being fired as part of this exercise. As far as the land-based missiles were concerned, this is an intercontinental ballistic missile, the Yars, fired from Kamchatka. We can see it here.
Внимание, расчет. Получен приказ. Есть приказ. Дублирую приказ на пусковые установки. Приготовиться к совместным действиям. Совместным действиям готов. Проконтролировать правильность набора. Набор верен. Внимание, расчет. Пуск. Есть пуск.
And Russia's TUMS fired their cruise missiles in this test. And as far as from the sea, well, it was kind of from the sea and under the sea, both in one go. This launch was from the nuclear submarine Bryansk of the RM-29 intercontinental ballistic missile.
Боевая тревога, ракетная атака.
Есть боевая тревога, ракетная атака.
Глубина старта 75 метров. Боевой курс 345 градусов.
Боевая тревога, ракетная атака, создать рубежи обороны на кормовой переборке 3-го отсека, носовой переборке 5-го отсека, командир рубежей обороны, командира отсека, личного состава НИК-2 покинуть 4-5 отсеки.
Выработать нормальные условия старта.
Есть нормальные условия старта.
Есть расчет. Вперед 6,5, есть низкая скорость.
Декрет 0, декрет 0.
Давление в системах ОВД гидравлики в норме. Значит, командир, есть нормальные условия старта.
Есть расчет. До старта 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Начало залпа.
And Russia reported all objectives were achieved, verifying the command and control readiness of the systems. And Moscow says this was a test planned way in advance. And as I said, the last test was a year ago in October, actually October 29th, and this was October 22nd. So Moscow says this was not meant as a reaction to any Western move. But in today's political atmosphere, it's not surprising one could expect this as a message, being a message to the West, with all of the daily news that is going on between Putin, between Trump, and just everything in the middle. Almost right after the test, the Russian deputy foreign minister made some powerful comments about nuclear arms and the control of them as well, saying that calls for nuclear disarmament that ignore current realities are completely unrealistic. Saying if the U.S. rejects Russia's proposal on the New START treaty, the nuclear threat or threat of war will continue to grow, but Russia will still guarantee its own security. Saying that Russia's proposal is only viable with the cooperation of Washington. And saying there are currently no conditions that give the possibility of a meaningful dialogue between Moscow and Washington on non-proliferation. And also stating that Russia must first be certain that the U.S. has abandoned its so-called previous hostility policies. Saying that the West's aggressive course risks a direct clash between nuclear powers, and that Russia won't risk being dragged into an expensive arms race, but it will defend itself. And very importantly, he also confirmed that Russia does not see a possibility of resuming informational exchange under the New START treaty. And unfortunately, that means communication channels to prevent nuclear miscommunication or miscalculation remain frozen. So that, like the Cold War, and this is the world we live in now, leaves a gray zone for miscalculation or miscommunication that could unfortunately start a nuclear conflict, which luckily in the past the world has barely made it through. So what does this all mean? Yes, Russia's tested its nuclear strategic force successfully, and they do this every year, planned in advance. So is this some huge threat to the West? Probably not, but it is flexing. And with the dialogue of this new nuclear START treaty, hardening with NATO's posture, all tests like this, regardless what country, ripple through the global atmosphere and global geopolitical stances of these political powers. Every move nowadays changes the situation in the world, and all nuclear moves have a very high potential risk. So regardless if you see this as a warning or a threat or just another test This shows that nuclear tensions are really back at the center of world politics. I'll keep reporting on the ground, on the front line, and in the studio to bring you a perspective you might not see anywhere else. Or at least I'll do my best, and I'll always do my best to get as in-depth as possible with you. And what will this trigger in the West? Well, this comes on the same day as new sanctions against Russia's oil sector and a boost in the oil price of 5% in just a day. At the same time, we're seeing massive tariffs from Trump across the board, and now the United States is even leaning and turning to Canada for critical minerals, with different signals of what's really happening in different countries across the world. On one hand, you've got the Canadian Prime Minister stating that the economic relationship with the United States is over.
This decades-long process of an ever closer economic relationship with the United States is now over. And as a consequence, many of our former strengths as a country, former strengths more particularly as our economy, strengths based on close ties to America, have become our vulnerabilities. And as a result of that, the jobs of workers in our industries most affected by the U.S. tariffs in autos and steel and lumber are under threat. And our businesses are holding back investments restrained by the pall of uncertainty that's hanging over all of us. Our relationship with the United States will never again be the same.
But you've got Washington directly investing in Canadian mining companies. And at the same time, there are Canadian companies moving to the United States. And this shows how quickly things change between two countries when their politics collide and how it affects the economics, and in this case, resources. And we had an interview with the CEO of one of these companies, and they spoke out about this. And he explained how his company, District Copper Corp, is one of these exploration companies that just expanded into the U.S., hoping to take advantage of the need for domestic supply in the U.S. and the possible government's investments. And District Copper has now entered into a strategic alliance with Richard Gold LLC, a Nevada-based explorer focused on gold, copper, and silver. And this marks the company's first step into the U.S. market. And Jevon Warbis, the CEO, pointed out that Richard Gold's LLC expertise in sourcing undervalued U.S. assets will be a perfect match for his company, District Copper Corp's growth strategy.
First and foremost, just to see that type of participation coming from a federal government of a country, and that being the United States, that's huge. I mean, that shows a lot on the Trump administration, on the Department of Defense. I mean, they're not messing around. They're here to ensure that they have defense metals, that there are opportunities, and that their hand is in the cookie jar for some really good, commodity uplift. They want to be a part of it. I don't blame them. To see a Canadian company get a strategic investment from a U.S. government, that is absolutely inspiring. And I think to most of us junior miners, I mean, we realize it's a hard business. Figuring out where deposits are and how they're, laying out in the earth is not an easy thing to do, but to be able to advance it and know that you have a government that wants to actively participate in the development of these projects. Best thing I can say is with District Copper, I mean, all these companies that have been strategically invested into, they all started, if you think about it, they all started as raw land, and a lot of exploration was put into them to build into what they are today, to secure the investment from the government. And Trilogy Metals, for example, was a low of 72 cents over the last year to date. and now they're sitting at about $9 today, a high of 12, and we're talking Canadian dollars. But at the end of the day, that type of return, I mean, that's why we are here as mining and metal explorers. And you know,
and that's with a $35 million investment from Washington as well. Yeah,
absolutely. And I mean, that's why we're here. We're looking for those types of investments from, you know, key players. I wouldn't have guessed U.S. government 10 years ago, but today, I mean, we're not only are we looking at the majors to hopefully be able to develop our projects and say, hey, look at what we've got, and hopefully they take a liking in the exploration models that we've used, the systematic exploration that we've applied to each project, and you know, to have that and know that we do have the governments looking as well, it's quite motivational for us to want to, you know, do the best work we can and develop as much information and you know, hopefully start building resources and reserves on the projects we have. It takes a bit, but we know they're there. So District Copper, we're an earlier stage company at this point, looking at advanced stage projects, and you know, with our project in British Columbia, it is a copper project. It's a copper porphyry, and from what we're seeing so far, in our opinion, you know, we have to obviously get to the point of one more round of some exploration, and then we're going to start drilling the project. As that's being done, our address is 12 miles from the pit of Highland Valley Copper, the biggest copper mine in Canada. And you know, our area code is the place you want to be. But in the same boat, you know, we do want to look in the States, and we do want to look at some of the projects down there that have been maybe looked over. And with commodity prices as high as they are, a lot of projects that might have been looked over at you know, $1,200 and $1,500 gold today, with and you know, copper nearing $5. These projects could be far more viable than they were 10 years ago. And so I think, you know, with us exploring, looking at these opportunities, looking for the new discovery, that's where our upside is.
And regardless if Ottawa wants it or not, this isn't going away. This isn't just some speculation. I mean, if we look at companies like Trilogy Metals, who received not chump change, but almost $36 million investment from the U.S. government. And this is the direction that District Copper is going into. And this isn't financial advice, this is just information. With copper and other resources being referred to as strategic as oil once was, they are leading the way in power, infrastructure, green energy, and more. So I want to give a special thanks to District Copper for sponsoring this video. And as always, I don't just bring you some off-the-wall company that I don't look deep into. I mean, how many other YouTubers do you see that actually do interviews of the CEOs when they do sponsored videos? Well, I do. And I get as in-depth as possible as I do all my reports to bring you information that you might not get from other sources, and give you my 2 cents and the facts I see without actually putting my opinion in it, just facts. So maybe this is something good for your family. Maybe it's not. Maybe this is something you want to look into and you need to get more, do more research on. Maybe it's not. But go down to the link in the comment, click, and see what their latest presentation has to say, and maybe it'll be something that'll help you and your family. That's the point in every man's life. As I always say, every man should do what they can to support their family. That's what I do. And I also try to support the world with the information they're not going to see in other places. So let's move on. Like this video, share it across all social media. Again, go down and click on the link in the description, and we'll go from there. There's a lot more to come. I'm headed back to the front line very, very soon. And we've got some breaking news coming out as we're filming right now. Russia has come out with a reaction to the new sanctions by the U.S. on Russia. Dmitry Medvedev came out saying if anyone had any illusions, the U.S. is our enemy. And their talkative peacemaker Trump, obviously, has now fully taken the path of war with Russia. War with Russia. This is what Russia is saying now. Dmitry Medvedev. Now, he says, yes, he does not always actively fight on the side of Kiev yet, but this is now his conflict. So, he's saying that this is now the U.S. and Trump's conflict. Now, the senile, not the senile Bidens anymore, because Trump always called it Biden's war, but now Dmitry Medvedev is calling this Trump's war. He's saying now Trump has officially aligned himself with insane Europe. And he's saying there's a clear plus to the Trump pendulum that Russia can now strike any of Ukraine's dugouts or hideouts without looking back at any unnecessary negotiations. And they will achieve victory exactly where it is only possible, on the ground, not behind a desk, destroying the enemy, not taking meaningless deals. Now, what is this a comment of? This is him saying, okay, we're done with the deals. As I said, meaningless deals. We're done. We're just going to attack, and get victory on the battlefield. Now, this isn't Putin saying this. This is Dmitry Medvedev. So he's known to give some harsh comments here and there. But this is coming from a sitting political figure in Russia. Deputy chairman of the Security Council of the Russian Federation. So I'm going to leave you here with this, and hopefully peace comes to not only Ukraine, but the world overall. We want people to stop dying. So please like this video, share it across all social media. We've got a lot more to come. Again, I'm going back to the front. Just had a colleague die a few days ago, and another seriously injured who I've known for over a decade. Of course, I'm scared shitless going back to the front, but, as they say, if it's not me, who? There's no one else giving you the English language reports from the front line like I am. So I'm going to do my best to bring you all of the facts on the ground. And again, thanks for the people that support my work. Thanks for District Copper for sponsoring this video. And we've got a lot more to come. And go down and check out District Copper's presentation in the pinned comments. And see what you think about their information and what they do. We've got a lot more to come. Stick with us.